Okay, Wilson's Promontory. This is one I've been looking forward to recording for a while. There's a few things that I've got for you. Wikipedia pages, you can freeze the video and watch those. We've got a stop and route guide, although that doesn't really cover the length of the stops. You need to sort of go by ear or by the trip plan. Group management, that's going to be an issue because there's so many places that people can get lost and so many people that wander off and take their time along the way. Sites and also group splitting, that's something that we need to do for better time management, particularly if you want to get back to Melbourne on time. A lot of customers can get upset if they've got flights afterwards, or if they've if they've got their friends picking them up at 8 or 9 o'clock or whatever the arrival time back in Melbourne is. Even though we say on our Facebook event pages, don't plan anything afterwards because there can be delays due to traffic or whatnot. But one of the nice things about Wilson's Prom is the wildlife. This is a video that I took last weekend at Wilson's Prom, and there was a wombat there. People just went crazy for this little guy, and he just sort of munched on some grass and then wandered off. But yeah, they're really, really popular, and there's lots of wombats out there. So Wikipedia pages, you can read through that. You can see a map of Wilson's Promontory. We're sort of down here. I'll show you a map in a moment. There's another one on wildlife, hiking, and Mount Oberon. Just pause the video and have a read over that. So the plan is to go from Melbourne to this part of Wilson's Promontory. So as we saw a moment ago, Wilson's Prom isn't just that part. It's it also looks like this part as well, technically, but we spend all our time just down here. It says Whiskey Bay. So the first stop is Currumborough, Kelly's Cafe. Now, here's an important thing to do. Tell people on the bus to buy water. They're definitely going to need water, and they won't pay attention, but it's good to tell them anyway. The second thing is to tell them to buy a second sandwich. They don't want to be buying food from the Prom Cafe because firstly, the food isn't really that great. Secondly, they shouldn't want to spend their entire day in two separate lines. I don't really tell them that, but it's something to keep in mind. But the third reason is, and this is the more important one, and one that you need to clearly spell out to them, is that you won't be waiting for people that get stuck in the line. So last weekend when I was on this tour, that was grand final weekend. So it was a long weekend holiday. And it was on Friday, but we actually took the public holiday was on Friday, but we took this tour on Saturday. And this Kelly Cafe, if I can find, well, not Kelly's Cafe, I should say, it's the Prom Cafe, which is this one here. I've never seen people come out at the door in a line, but we did see it that day. The people waiting for an hour for their food, and it caused a bit of problems because we just couldn't wait an hour for. I mean, obviously the driver's going to be unhappy, I'll be unhappy, other customers will be unhappy. So we split up the group, and I took one group down to Squeaky Beach, and the driver, well, we walked down, I should say, through Tidal River, and the other group caught the bus. And there's one lady that had a pacemaker, and she had some real struggles. She couldn't get to Mount Oberon, which is quite the hike because it's incline and decline. Whereas, walking from Tidal River to Squeaky Beach is all flat terrain. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But just to give you an idea, here you need to tell people before they get off the bus they need to get water, and they should be getting a second sandwich because then they can sit down at that cafe, if I can find it, and they can sit out the front here and talk to other people and then be ready to go in 20 or 30 minutes and enjoy more of the day because they're talking to people. Okay, so moving on, you can see there's Whiskey Bay. This is the main part of Wilson's that we'll be in. Lots of really beautiful beaches. This is Whiskey Bay. We don't visit here unless you can't go to... unless you can't get to Mount Oberon because of the clouds. And you don't want to go to Mount Oberon. It's 550 meters above sea level. If there's lots of clouds, you'll actually be in a cloud, and when people look out, they won't be able to see anything. Normally, they'd see this spectacular view. So we take people to Whiskey Bay and Picnic Bay when they can't get to Mount Oberon. Actually, that slide should be a bit further down, I'd say. I'm not exactly sure where that is, but what I was meant to show you was Kelly's Cafe. I always laugh when I see this these two baguettes that Ned Kelly's holding. There's also up on this wall over here, you can't see it in that image, but there's all these little figurines of Ned Kelly. And on the back wall, which is kind of directly behind this viewpoint, there's the bathroom. Don't get them to use the bathroom in there because there's only 1 or 2 bath stalls. There's a bathroom outside, and there's about 2 or 3 bath stalls out there. So just tell people there's bathrooms in there, but use the ones that are outside because there's 3 or 4 more stalls per person. So some really cheap stuff there. You can go in there and get some food. So Wilson's Promontory, the main road that we're going to come down is through here. and that's the main part. This is Tidal River where we're going to spend. So this is the map you need to understand and really be familiar with. This is Whiskey Bay and Picnic Bay. Those are the two ones we don't visit unless you can't get to Mount Oberon, which is over here. I'll show you in a moment. But and the reason we don't go there, because I mean, obviously you look at it, it's quite a beautiful place. And by the way, a lot of photographers love going to Wilson's Promontory and just taking photos. That's a time lapse. You can see by the water. They've probably done a 30-second exposure, and it's smoothed out the water, but just looks beautiful. But the reason you don't go there is that we're already visiting one of the beaches, and we're traveling along this path here to Squeaky Beach, but we'll get there in a moment from Tidal River. So we come along this road here, and usually by around this point you'll be able to see Mount Oberon. This is where this is where the gate is, and that's sometimes locked. And you then drive up there. I'll tell you a funny story in a moment about our first tour. But you usually see about here, you can look through the front of the windscreen of the bus and you can see, is the cloud shrouding Mount Oberon? If it is, you're basically going to be taking people up into a storm. And it's not fun. I'll tell you that much. People don't like being in a storm, and they get very disappointed and they blame it on you. And well, not everyone. There's a few people that they're a bit disappointed, particularly after about a 45 minutes to an hour worth of walking. So it's better to take them down to the beach where they can jump around and do whatever, as opposed to a really disappointing view. So Mount Oberon is the first stop. I'm just checking there isn't anything else to show you. No, that should be fine. Actually, that next slide should be Mount Oberon. That's the one I'm looking for. So we'll delete that one. Okay, and I'll move that one up. So we'll talk about Mount Oberon in a moment. But basically what happens is the shuttle bus from Tidal River, because they don't want people taking their cars up to Mount Oberon. And I think that's to do with safety driver. I'm not exactly sure. I think people are speeding down Mount Oberon really quickly, and some of the roads are quite narrow, or it should be enough to fit a car and a bus in. But I think the buses, because of all the corners, do want to take up more of the space. So during summer, excuse me, during summer, not so much during winter, they'll block off that gate. Actually, it's a shame I don't have a picture of the gate there. Sometimes the gate will just have these warning signs that you can't drive up, but if we're in the bus, and I'll talk about why, we drive up, and we've spoken to the sheriff about this. So we have a bus of 57 people. It's a high capacity bus that parks here in Tidal River, and they've told us to get off there and then take the shuttle up. And the shuttle comes every 30 minutes. It doesn't come at lunchtime. There's actually you want to take a photo of the the timetable, and you want to keep that on you so you can tell, is the bus up there now and is it coming down, in which case it's better to wait for the bus at the bottom. But I'll continue with that in a moment. Let's just talk about the key points. The key point is that the bus at the bottom, we can't fit all our passengers into that bus. Their buses, I'm not even sure if they are 57s, but there's no way that all our customers could go up in one lot. So they need to go up in groups, and it's just not effective. So it's better to send our bus up. And usually what we'd do is we'd wait here for the bus. If we know it's down in Tidal River, it would then come up, and we'd follow that bus up so we're not getting in its way on the way back down. Because what you don't want to have is two buses going in opposite directions at a corner, and the drivers do get a bit annoyed about that. A bit of trivia, there's particular training for drivers that want to deal with close quarters in the same way there's training for snow drivers. They call it hazardous area authority. I'm not sure what close quarters driving is, but basically what they do is that we drive on the left here in Australia, but the buses will take each of the buses coming in opposite directions on this, let's say it's a straight on a really narrow part of the road, they'll move into the right hand side of the lane. The reason they do that is the driver's on the right hand side, so the driver can really push up against the curb, and then the two buses can pass. But if you're trying to pass each other and both of the bus drivers are in the middle of the road, then it doesn't. You have to sort of visualize that. But you can imagine if you pull to the right hand side of the road, the driver's on the right hand side, and you can see the curb or rocks or whatever it might be straight down the bottom of his windscreen. So, but these guys aren't trained, and they get a bit nervous, and they don't really like buses coming up. So if you have any issues with the park rangers, you can explain that to them and say, we've got such a large number of customers, we try to keep to the schedule. And what you want to do is, if you look at the schedule, You can see the bus is coming down, then you wait for it, and it should just be 5 or 10 minutes. If it's lunch break, then you can go up, because the lunch break's around 1 o'clock. Usually we do it in the morning. Or if the bus is here, you can wait for the bus. But generally, if you know that the bus shouldn't be up there, you can go anyway, because you know they'll be in Tidal River picking people up. But basically, it goes up and down every 15 minutes. So 15 minutes up, 15 minutes down. One of the other issues you'll have is that people from the public will try to board our bus, and the driver can't tell them apart because they think the shuttle bus our bus is the shuttle bus, so they'll be trying to board. And the other issue you have is that passengers will, and I should be jumping to the Mount Oberon screen now. So once you're up at this Telegraph Saddle car park, so this is where you'll stop and disembark from the vehicle and then start walking. It's a 45-minute walk up. It's quite long, and it is quite tiring for people. The lady with the pacemaker couldn't make that trip. So so there's a few things to be cautious about. The other thing is to tell people once you arrive at Telegraph Saddle car park, there's little lookouts over here. Obviously, don't go these directions because we're going up Mount Oberon. There's also bathrooms. So there's two things. One is if you arrive down to the bottom of the Telegraph Saddle car park on the way back down, and there's people in the bathroom line that are waiting, tell them that we're going to Tidal River and there's bathrooms down there that are much nicer, and you'll be there in 5 minutes. And you don't need to do that straight away, just as soon as everyone's ready on the bus to go and you're waiting for people in the toilet line. If no one's ready to go, then let them use the bathroom, that's fine. They're not particularly, they're not really 5-star bathrooms up there. But it's just good to keep, in terms of time management, to get everyone out from that line and move them back down to Tidal River because there's bathrooms and stuff there, so we can make better use of time. So the other thing I was going to say, just continuing on what I was saying about the shuttle bus, is that our passengers don't sometimes know the difference between the shuttle bus and our vehicle, and you need to tell them to pay very careful attention to the bus that they board, because they could end up in Tidal River and they won't be able to find us. And so this is where you need to really, and this is what I was saying about group management, is there's a few issues here around group management that you just need to be aware of, and that's one of them. And we have had a group that's gone down there and they've caught the shuttle bus, and they've realized while the bus was going down they caught the wrong bus. So you need to tell them very clearly, just before you arrive in Telegraph Saddle car park, that they just need to be aware of the bus that they get onto and make sure they got the right driver, the right tour guide, and not the shuttle bus. Now, in regards to that gate, what I was going to say is during summer that can be locked. You need to carefully look at it, because sometimes it's locked, sometimes it's not. It just has warning signs up. We go through when there's warning signs up, because of the logistical issues, around, the pickup, as I mentioned earlier. But what can happen is that you may be confused, and some of the drivers, this is what happened on my first tour, which was just fucking hilarious. He dropped us off here, and if you can imagine walking up all of this to Telegraph, and that's about an hour and 10 minutes as it is. It's a 5 or 10 minute, maybe 15 minute, maybe not 15 minutes drive as a driver, and then you've got that hour-long walk up to Mount Oberon. And we had horseflies out as well, and they actually sting you, so it was a fucking terrible time during summer. But no, we made it up in the end. Time management is going to be important here, particularly people that have lower fitness levels, and Instagrammers as well. That's you're going to have people taking photos of flowers and shit, and by the time they get to the top, they won't have any time. So always tell them the best photos are at the top. By the way, make the best use of your time by getting to the top straight away, so you can take those photos. But if they're taking photos along the way at 50 different flowers, then they realize the best photos are at the top. Then the trouble you're going to have is telling people to get down, and they're going to continue. They're going to get up there. There's 2 lookouts, and they're going to continue spreading out and walking through the bushland all the way over to here or wherever. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but you need to then climb through that rockland, and it's not something you want customers walking through in terms of just their safety. They're climbing up 2 or 3 foot rocks to get there, but as soon as they see other people out there, they're going to do it themselves. So you want to just tell people, stick to the 2 lookouts, don't go any further out, because it is dangerous. And if anyone's up there, then you could be waiting for them. And what you want to do is, when you're organizing the group to come back, because I'll spend maybe 20 minutes at these 2 different lookouts, is that I'll actually go up, usually during summer or those public holidays will be really busy, and that's when you see people exploring that area, and then you need to go up there and say, anyone from new to Melbourne, please head on back down, and you just need to shout. And this is where it's useful to have wristbands, because you can identify your customers, and usually if they're being a pain in the ass, I'll say something like, oh yeah, just after this, these 17 photos, and you just need to sort of get those people to keep moving down the hill, and to say, guys, come on, let's go. Try to be polite as well, because it's just I think it's difficult because they're not abiding by what you're asking, and it requires a bit of patience. But just usually what I do is just stand nearby them, so they know that I'm waiting on them, and because you're the representative of that group, and you need to manage the time for the other passengers so that they're not spending the whole day in the bus down at Telegraph Saddle Car Park. Excuse me. So those are just important things to keep in mind. I should have shown you the Mount Oberon views here. So you can see that's Tidal River. You can see the, you can't really see. I imagine it's Tidal River Bridge there. That's that main road I was talking about so usually by this point here, you'll be able to see straight up and see the top of this mountain. During really bad storms, this will just be cloudy. So if it is cloudy and you can see that when you're this part of the road, you get to here, you just turn around, go back down to Whiskey Bay and Picnic Bay, and then head back to Tidal River and then do the walk around. And we're going to be talking about that in a moment. So, and I guess, the other concern I have is I'm worried that someone's going to get struck by lightning, because it's actually quite a high point. And if there is lightning, I wouldn't be taking people up there, because it is the highest point in that region. This is one of our photos. Really just shows the beauty of Wilson's Promontory. People just having a great time. I don't think we edited that photo much either, but you can see that, why people love the beaches so much. The white sand, clear blue water. It's really quite a place to be. So I don't think that's one of our photos, but it just again shows really how beautiful it is. So you can see Tidal River there, heads out to the beach. Now we're going to talk about, let me just check there isn't any more notes. So we talked about limited gate entry, and the gate being locked, and that's going to happen during summer. You just have to wait for the bus at that point, because then he'll usually come down this way, unlock the gate, and then you can get up. Or he'll come the other way and unlock the gate, and then you can get up that way, just to let customers know that you're waiting for the shuttle bus to get you up, because they will, anytime there's something weird going on, customers they can get a bit antsy, particularly if you don't explain things to them. It's always good to keep them up to speed with what's happening on a tour. Okay, so we talked about Tidal River. Let me just check those final notes and see this. So we talked about Telegraph Saddle Car Park. Why we don't use the shuttle bus, driver issues with rangers. Okay, cool. I think we're good to go. All right, so moving on. So then the bus is going to take you from Telegraph Saddle Car Park all the way back down to Tidal River. So that's the Mount Oberon summit, as we talked about. As I said, people in the toilet line, get them to jump back on the bus and they just head back down. The driver's just got to be careful not to, again, have issues with the bus, but they may actually lock the gate down there, or you'll see the shuttle bus up the top, or you can look at your schedule and see, and you should be doing this. You should be looking at the schedule and say, oh, okay, the bus is going to be up here in 5 minutes. And just wait for them, or if it's in 2 minutes, or they should be here now, then they're probably like right here, or they're right there. And if you start driving down there, it's gonna we've passed the buses before and it's never been an issue, except we've never been caught in a corner. Maybe there's a difficult corner where you've got to start reversing. And actually, before I go on, there's one thing I should tell you about, and that is that during peak seasons, and I'm just gonna talk about this because it wasn't on our discussion points before, but if you go down to where are we? Squeaky Beach, this road here, this is where I think the bus parks. Maybe, yeah, I think it's here. Yeah, it's there. So there's quite a bit of bushland to walk through. Maybe 1 minute of bushland and a little bridge. There's going to be a lot of cars, and the bus will pull in here, and there could be so many cars lined up that the bus actually has to park there. I remember one time the bus driving in, and then he couldn't get out because there's so many cars. He couldn't even pull a U-turn, so he had to reverse out. And I had to then run back and then tell all these cars that were behind the bus to reverse or to park, and then all the other people that were coming, because there's just people after people coming off the main road, and in cars, and I had to say, you just need to park here. Sorry, there's a bus coming. There's no more parks up ahead, and all these cars clogged up the car park, and it was just a real nightmare. So just keep that in mind as well during summer peak seasons, and particularly public holidays when it's going to be really busy. All right, so once we get from keep forgetting Telegraph Settle Car Park down to Tidal River, that's when you're gonna have lunch. So this is where I said you want to have, and this is what I do. I get my second sandwich at Kelly's Cafe. I don't get it here. I don't like their food. I don't like lining up. I don't like waiting. I just want to get my sandwich and eat it, or maybe even eat it on the bus and just have a really nice conversation with the people there. You're going to make much better use of your time instead of standing around in a line. It's just stupid. It really is. Now, the other thing is, as I said, you want to leave there straight after 30 minutes. I'm thinking about reducing that to maybe 25. And anyone who's not ready to go, they either need to catch the bus from, so our bus, not the shuttle bus, from Tidal River all the way around to Squeaky Beach, which means they miss this beautiful walk, which is one of the highlights of the trip. But that's, as I said, that's why you want to communicate really clearly at Kelly's Cafe to get a second sandwich, to get water, and really just get snacks here. There's a little gift shop there as well. Sometimes it's good to buy glasses if yours broke. That's usually where I just go to pick up some stuff. Okay, so alright, so from Tidal River we're going to walk from here. It's going to pull everyone. You're going to walk inside and say New Melbourne's leaving, everyone come outside. Some people find that annoying, but it's better than someone being left behind. And then you bring them out there and just stand around for a minute or two, and because everyone will see the group forming, and they'll try to stuff down their last couple of bites of food. There's going to be people inside probably still holding tickets because they weren't paying attention or weren't valuing what you were saying, and they're going to be stuck in the line. Now, those people that are waiting on their food or still in the line, they'll have to, as I said, catch the bus, and you've got to, because you can't park here. You've got to tell the driver to come back, and then the driver's got to give instructions to people to get them to come along with him to the bus. And what you should be doing is counting the number of people in your group, and then getting the driver to count the number in his group, and telling him how many there should be, so that no one's left behind. And at least if there is someone left behind, you've got early notice. And we have had people that have been left behind there. They've got lost, and they've retraced their steps back to here, and we've picked them up, and they've missed out on Squeaky Beach. Okay, so from there we're going to head around from Tidal River, and this is looking, which way is this looking? I think this is looking north. Oh, this is looking south. This is looking this way. So, it's hard to tell actually. All I know is that you want to head to Tidal River, and you can go along this little path here and then cross the bridge. We'll talk about the bridge in a second. You don't want to obviously go that way. You want to and you get to the beach within a couple of minutes. You'll see it pretty clearly. You want to find if you get to the bridge, you want to be taking a left at the bridge. That's all you need to know. Don't take a right, or don't, if you continue 5 minutes this way and you haven't found a bridge yet, you're going the wrong way. Okay, so then you're going to come across this big rock. Well, actually, this is the view if you're on the wrong side of the path. You should be going through the bushland here. And that's through this bridge, and this is on the opposite end of the bridge. You can see Mount Oberon up there, the little towns over here, and you want to cross this way across the bridge. A lot of people like taking photos here. It's a really good spot to take photos, and you'll come from this little path along there, or sometimes out of there, or sometimes you've gone a bit too far up and you actually hit the beach, and then you need to wander back to that bridge. But keep in mind, there is a big deposit of water there, and it is going to be hard to cross from there. You have to go, I think, back into the bushland, and then through the bridge and through that path. Okay, so you cross this bridge. You see this beautiful rock. You're going to walk behind it, and that's this Whale Rock. I didn't even know the name of it. Whale Rock. That's great. Really beautiful rock to take photos of, by the way. A lot of photographers, as I said, go there. This water can be high or low tide. You'll see sometimes it sort of varies. A very interesting sort of mixed color of the water as well. So then you're going to walk, and you need to tell people what's going on when you're at Tidal River. So you're going to walk that way. Actually, I'd say walk this way and then go along there. Yeah, so I think you're looking south when you're looking at, if you're in front of the general store looking back, because then you walk the opposite way, which should be, so you're looking south and you want to walk north. Okay. So on to the next thing. So you're going to walk. It's going to be 45 minutes of very relaxed, enjoyable walking. Now, what I didn't mention, and I should be looking at my notes just to make sure I don't miss anything, just reading through my notes. Okay, that when you're at Tidal River, even before, and by the way, you won't have a long time to explain this, because from here to Tidal River, you'll only have about 5 to 10 minutes to explain things. So you need to get on the microphone. You'll probably be quite tired. Well, maybe you won't be if you've walked down there. Usually I'm one of the last ones because I try to rally people and get them back down the mountain. But you won't have long to explain this. But what you need to explain is that if you do get lost, you need to head to Tidal River if you know where it is, or head to a main road so that we can find them. The bus will drive up and down every road if we need to, and we can find them. The second thing is to get everyone to stay on the bus. Where are we heading? Squeaky Beach. So when they see the signs and where they're going to get lost is here. Okay, because by the point that you get to Tidal River, people are going to be spread all over the place because the paths are quite narrow. They're really narrow. So they could end up at Pillar Point. Let me just read through. So as I said, I'm just going to revise some of the things I said. 30-minute stop max at Tidal River for lunch, and anyone that is late, they have to catch the bus to Squeaky Beach. And that, again, is something you have to explain from, I guess at Telegraph Saddle car park. You need to explain that to people on the way down. Okay, just reading through some more notes. Okay, there is one thing I should mention before we go on, and that is that people that do get stuck here for lunch and they just go to Squeaky Beach, there's a few different reasons that this is really important to do. Obviously, on public holidays, when there's a massive line, we were waiting an hour for those customers, and they just, I'd walk in and this guy would look at me in the face, this sad face, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm still waiting," and I'm like, "Mate, if I was you, I'd just forget it. Like, this is taking out of your day. I just throw that shit out, or just get some takeaway, or what? Not takeaway, but some chips, and just join us," because he had to then catch the bus down to Squeaky Beach. So he missed out on this really, and trust me, it is a really beautiful walk, particularly at sunset. When you get to here, you'll see this point is incredible. Is really quite amazing. So there is a disadvantage that half the group is going to be stuck on the bus, but there also is an advantage. And one of the advantages is you've got a smaller group to manage and less people that can get lost. The second thing is, once everyone gets back to firstly, they don't know where the bus is, and this is something that you need to make really clear with them as well, is that once you get to Tidal River, when you've got that group in front of you, and there's so many things to remember to do, but this is an important one. You need to tell them the bus is there. Once you get to the beach, you have to go down to the end of the beach and then to the right, and tell them to walk back to the bus stop. Because what they're going to do is, and particularly if there's a lot of people, you won't be able to see this, but they'll be able to walk past you, and you won't realize they're one of your group, and they're going to go all the way back to Tidal River. And then you've got to go find them, which is just going to be a nightmare. So, because they think the bus is back here. It's like, no, the bus is over here. So tell them the bus is at Squeaky Beach. Really important thing to do. I've seen people walk back all the time. I've had to run after people because I forgot to tell them that. And sometimes you realize they're not even part of your group, and they're looking at you like strangely, like, why is this guy telling me? You just have to check that they're part of your group and just make sure they're going in the right direction. But if you forget to tell them that, and they will be walking all the way back through Tidal River, which is really not good. So there is a bathroom. They've upgraded it to 2 stalls, so we get through it a bit quicker, but I've waited there 30 to 40 minutes when we've taken the entire group through Tidal River. So one of the benefits of taking the group there is they know where the bus is, and they've already spent quite a bit of time at Squeaky Beach. They know where the bathroom is, so you can get out of there quite quickly. There's not such a line. You just chuck everyone on the bus and get them out of there. It's not easy to tell people, hey, hurry up in the line, we got to go. Or even to tell someone, no, we need to leave. It's like, well, when's the next stop? An hour and a half. So, you're going to end up waiting, or you're going to end up with frustrated customers a lot of the time that will not actually listen to what you have to say, and they'll just wait in the line anyway because no one else is budging. And they're like, well, too bad. And it's a bit frustrating. So that's one of the good things about breaking the group up, is that some of them will already use a bathroom, and they'll be sitting on the bus ready to go because they've had all their fun at Squeaky Beach and they're just tired and they want to go home. The disadvantage to that is that you've got a few customers that missed out on this really, truly beautiful sunset. And the sun's going to set over here. You'll see it over Leonard Bay. And you'll see it it's just fucking spectacular. It's really beautiful. Actually, one more thing I'll mention, because there's a few things that are popping up now that I've forgotten to mention. Whiskey Bay, just before this, you're going to see on the right hand side some really beautiful views, and they're going to see the beaches and some of the rocks. It's only very brief, and that's when I usually give a bit of commentary and start covering everything off, about the trip and Mount Oberon. I start talking and getting people a bit more active. But you'll see it on the right hand side as you're coming to Whiskey Bay, so keep an eye out for that, because you don't get much of a glimpse, but everyone goes, oh wow, it looks really beautiful, and it's on the right hand side of the bus when you're coming up. Okay, so places that people can get lost, and I think, just to rewind, I'm just jumping through my slides here. Okay, so I've just talked about all that stuff. Just reading through my notes. Yeah, so just to wrap that up with Squeaky Beach, if I can find that slide. Once they've walked through this path here, they are going to forget. Yeah, so you've got a high resolution image of the car park now. You can see you'll see these rocks. I'll tell you those in a moment. But people won't know where that car park is, and you need to tell them when they're all around you. When you're at the Tidal River car park, you need to be really clear about that. Really clear what's going on. That the bus is down there. Make sure no one walks past you. So, but there is some disadvantages to splitting that group up, and as I said, it's just that they can't see those views. Okay, so this is Squeaky Beach. Really one of the highlights. Another, again, hotspot for photographers. These are the rocks down there when you're standing here facing the ocean. You can see the ocean in the background. A lot of people jump on those rocks and climb up them, and during low tide you can actually climb all the way up these rocks, and I've walked around there before. Really hot on your feet during summer, but really beautiful. You walk down this beach here. So if we jump back to our slide, you go through this path, and actually before I go on, that's what I should have covered, is where people can get lost, and this is why you tell them Squeaky Beach, because they'll see signs along the way. This is why you get the group to say Squeaky Beach. You'll see signs along the way that give them the right direction. If they think they're going to Pillar Point, this is where they'll end up, and they'll delay themselves, and then they might head back to Tidal River. Tidal Overlook Viewpoint number 2, I guess you can call it, is the other direction that people can get lost from this point here. There should be some clear signs that will take them in the right direction. Okay, so from here, this is just, these rocks here are spectacular, and people will really start to delay around these areas, and you'll start to run out of time. Definitely by this point, you'll definitely run out of time. And again, this is why you tell people with Squeaky Beach, and you can do this when you're back at Tidal River, as you should be doing for Mount Oberon at the start of the trek, that the best views are at the end. The best views are at the end, and if you want to make the best use of your time, then you want to get to those, to this place, and you'll know it when you see it. So don't waste your time taking photos of flowers. The best views will be at the end, and they'll see it. So I usually like to tell people that, so that we make better use of time. Obviously, if you're running out a lot of time because of Mount Oberon, you can cut lunch even shorter, or you may have a much more reduced group to take down. Just need to keep that in mind, because you do want to get as big a group as possible to walk through Tidal River. But there will be people like that lady with the pacemaker that is really struggling, that actually does catch the bus, and she didn't even go up Mount Oberon. Squeaky Beach, so this is the rocks, and I think it even looks better than this during sunset. So, and I've got no more slides, so that's it. I think Wilson's is a really beautiful place. Hopefully that's given you a bit of better understanding of the tour itself, and how to deal with some issues. Just thinking about any last minute things I need to tell you. I don't think there is. Safety's not such a concern as it is for Grampians. Obviously, with beaches being there, if anyone is thinking of jumping in the water, just be aware that there are things like rips that can kill people if people are jumping in the water during summertime. I don't think that the waves are too strong here, so there shouldn't be too much of a strong current, but they will do it at Squeaky Beach, and they will jump in the water. I guess you should probably also have a look at the rocks up at Squeaky Beach when the tide is in, and see if there's anywhere that anyone can slip and fall off these rocks into the water and drown. That's a safety consideration, so just have a look around there, and just keep your eye on people. But all along this way, people will be delaying a bit, so just good time management is going to be important. But yeah, that's it.